What's up, faithful? I got a special guest with me. I'm gonna let him introduce himself, not myself. I'm gonna let him introduce himself today.
Hey, my name is Mafi. I'm with Big Mac Sports, and appreciate Raj inviting me on to be on the stream with him today. So it'll be a good one. A lot of news and a lot of topics. So here, Raj, this is your show, man.
Let's go. So I'm gonna go hit the intro. We'll get into it. We got Steve Wilks, hired by the 49ers today as their defensive coordinator, as expected. We'll get right into it after a short little introduction. So before we get to the show, actually, Mafia, I got a lot of people are in the comments are going off about Vlad. He's one of my co-hosts. We do the
All right.
quad box on Instagram stuff. He was so angry today. I was just live on Instagram with my boy Smitty, and he went so like if you see the comments, they're all upset at Vlad. Like this guy is still upset that the 49ers lost that game last week, which obviously we're all upset, but man, he is still in the anger phase, like very, very angry. So how do you feel? I know we lost the NFC Championship game last week. How you feeling, my man? How you feeling after that game?
I've been through all through the 80s where we had all the glory with Joe Montana, and then 94 with Steve Young. So I've been through all of that stuff, up and down, and years of like head scratching move by the top executives, and I've been through all of that stuff, and it breaks your heart. But I mean, nobody can foretell that Brock Purdy was going to get his arm hit like that, and it was just done from there. So, and then Johnson being in there and getting hurt also in the game. So nobody can foretell that stuff. It is what it is. It's in the past. We have to just look forward to next year, and this offseason is getting crazy. And now that we got through that first big obstacle of signing a defensive coordinator, we can go after the free agents that we need to get everybody signed, and look forward to 2023. And we just got to get there. It's those are the type of feelings that fans and everybody have. We all have those kind of feelings, but we just got to get over it. So it's just that's
It's
just
tough.
what
It is definitely hard to get over, and I think some people have a harder time getting over because I mean it's a great team. We had a Super Bowl roster, and not my man Niner Gang says I'm angry and let down.
Yeah,
AF2. He goes, this one stings. It does sting. It sucks because I feel like our window was like it was there, and like you said, Brock goes down, and then Josh Johnson goes down. It's like we didn't have a quarterback, so it's frustrating. That's what I was talking about with Larry yesterday on our show. Is to me, it's the biggest what if game of all time. Like I'm gonna sit here when I'm 80 years old, go into my bed like, well, what if Brock Purdy didn't get hurt? You know what I mean? So it's a frustrating situation, but unfortunately, we do have to move on. You can't dwell on it. And my man, Hey Peter Parker says, I survived Tim Rattay, Jim Tomsula, Chip Kelly, Mike Nolan, Singletary, et cetera, et cetera. So we have had darker days, but in these bright days, we want it to be even brighter. So it does suck. My man, A Boogie, good transition. He says, I just watched the Panthers podcast. They said the 49ers are about to be even better now that Wilkes is the DC. What a stud hire. So I want you to tell me, what do you think about Steve Wilks? Because this is basically today's topic. The 49ers went out. They hired, Wilkes as the DC. He's got a lot of experience. He was a former head coach with the Cardinals. He's been a DC for the Panthers. He was their interim coach. He kind of brought some new life to that team. A lot of experience. He's been a DB coach before. I don't know. How do you feel about this hire?
I like this hire. I actually spoke about it too, because Wolf and I had last Friday we had Coach Tuyaki, who used to coach for BYU. He was on my show with us last week, and Um, yeah, Wilkes, I thought he would be a good hire. So I look at how players, how they do under certain people, and um, the Shaq Thompson, he just raved about him. He just said that, I mean, his game just got elevated just because of Wilkes, and so he's a linebacker. He's one of those guys that came from my hometown, and um, he's starring there with the Panthers right now, and so yeah, I think it's a good hire. Um, so do we know if he's going to keep it the same system with the wide nine, or is he going to change it to a 4-3? So that's the unknowns. What do you think about that, Raj?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So last week when Kyle Shanahan addressed the media in his press conference, they did ask him that, and he says he stressed like he wants to have basically a continuity of what they're doing. He doesn't want to change it because you do have these core players. You don't want to change too much for them. Also, you have these younger players. You don't want to keep changing it up on them, and you also have Chris Kasurk who runs that wide nine. And there was a tweet by Matt Barrows. Let me pull this up, and this is actually a really good tweet. Let me pull this one up. And he kind of talked about that basically. So it says that so Steve Wilks spent time with Chris Kasurk yesterday. They had the interview, right? And it was a lengthy interview from all the reports. When Ian Rappaport talked about it yesterday, it's a very long interview. But Matt Barrows tweeted out that he spent a significant time with Kasurk during the interview, and the 49ers love Kasurk and the wide nine. So making sure all the pieces, personalities were compatible was a top priority. So that tells me that they're not going to change too much. They want to keep that wide nine. Like maybe he can change a few of his, implement some of his schemes and stuff like that. But I've also read that he does run a cover three. 49ers are typically a cover three defensive scheme. So I think it's going to be relatively the same. And I think that's what Kyle wanted. He didn't want a guy that he has to kind of teach things and hold their hand. He needs a guy that says, hey, look, you're a defensive coach. Here's the defense. Go do it. Go coach him. He doesn't need to like figure that out because, again, you're just transitioning from a great DC. You want to give this team, who's still in a Super Bowl window, a good veteran coach that can kind of come in and continue where they left off. So I don't think they're going to change too much, honestly.
Well, I hope he doesn't, because we have the system that we have right now works for the players that we have. So if he if he comes in and wants to trade, do other things with the players that we have to add a lot more players, and that salary cap is looking kind of dismal right now. So I mean, I don't know how they're going to maneuver things to sign everybody, but I'm hoping they can sign the main guys coming back, to that way we can be for sure that we're going to go on a championship run, and hopefully that quarterback room will be where it needs to be by the time that gets going.
I don't have any too many worry about the salary cap because this year it does go up. They will be projected to be about 16.6 million and as it starts, as the new league year starts, and then they can move some contracts around. I anticipate Arik Armstead maybe getting a restructure, Kittle maybe. So somebody's going to get their contract restructured. And to me, I don't worry about it because they have my man, Parag Marathe. He's the contract wizard, the wheeling. This man, he'll figure it out. I think they'll be able to sign most of their guys back. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of competition now because you have D'Amico, you have Robert Slott, and Mike McDaniel. They're all going to try to take our guys because they're their guys also. They're familiar with them. So we might lose a few people, but I think the Niners will be able to sign a majority of them, are the guys they want back. And then I think they're, they'll lose a few because that's it. Every offseason there's some turnover. But with the addition of Steve Wilks, I think it's going to help them be able to bring some new guys in that they may not have been able to get because he is from Carolina. He may be able to take some guys. There's a guy by the name of Greedy Williams. He's a cornerback, free agent. I've been a big Greedy Williams fan since he was in college. Maybe they can sneak him over, So there's definitely going to be some guys that he can bring in. So I'm excited.
He came out of college. He was – the nickname fit his name. He was greedy. He wanted to get after the ball. So, yeah, I hope he brings some guys over. I hope he brings that big boy over with him too. So that'll be great.
Brian Burns. Yeah, that would be amazing. But I don't know if they have the money to get a Brian Burns.
Yeah.
But hey, if they figured it out, if Parag can figure that one out, that's amazing signing. But I definitely think he'll bring in some guys that we may not have been able to get previously, because that's what people do when they go to a new team. They bring players they're familiar with. Just like D'Amico is going to do the same thing. So I anticipate that. The good thing to me about Steve Wilks is he's got that secondary coach background. He's a DB guy, so I think he's going to really strengthen that defensive backroom, the secondary, and I think that's going to be his focus because you got a great D line coach, Chris Kasurek. You let him cook, let him worry about the D line. Now he can just focus on that back end and make it even better. So to me, it was a good hire because it's going to be a little different. Obviously, D'Amico was a linebacker, so his mindset may have been a little bit different with coverage skills and everything. And now you got a DB guy who's going to have even different look. But again, he does run a cover 3 system, so it should be very similar overall in the grand scheme of things. But there will be a few nuances that he changes. But yeah, I'm excited, man. I think this was a good hire overall. D'Amico's going to be a big loss. So they did lose D'Amico. Do you think it'll be a hard transition? Do you think they'll, have a few? Do you think it's going to be a hard adjustment for these players? What do you think?
I don't think it's going to be a hard adjustment. So if he's coming in, like if you're looking at the whole scope of things, he's a DB type guy, right? Mm-hmm. So we have, in actuality, we have him, Kasurek, and then Fred Warner he's a coach on the field. So that's what we can't miss is that Fred Warner brings that other extra element that other players cannot bring with them because he's like a coach right on the field also. Mm-hmm. So I don't think there's going to be too hard or crazy transition from D'Amico to Wilkes, but I think they're going to play really amazing next year. I think the defense is going to thrive under Wilkes. So,
yeah, I think, again, this is best case scenario. I think it's the guy that had the most experience, and I think that it'll set them up for success in terms of, the people that were options. I think the fans wanted Vic Fangio because that's the name, that's the guy. He's been in the league. He's been a coach. He's been on the Niners. Yep. I kind of feel like a lot of people wanted Fangio, but I think his cost was a little bit more than the Niners wanted. And also his defensive scheme was a little bit different than the Niners wanted to run. So again, I agree with your take that it shouldn't be that big of a transition because, again, this guy's going to be very familiar with the defensive system. So if they would have brought Fangio, they might have had to change a lot. I think the transition might have been a little bit more difficult, actually, if they brought Fangio, who, again, I like Fangio. I would have loved to have him in because, he was there with Harbaugh and the nostalgia. But when I really think about it and I look at everything, I'm like, you know what? Actually, Wilkes is probably the better hire. And then there's a few other options. There was, what's the guy? Chris Harris and Chris Kasurek. They haven't really been at DC. So it would be a little bit more of a transition, again, because they're inexperienced. So to me, this was the money hire. We'll see how it plays out, though. I mean, obviously, we're excited. Yeah. We're going to back the guy. But if he goes and craps at his pants next year, then we're going to be a little pissed off. So we'll see.
Well, we'll be like those Eagles fans throwing beer, right?
Oh, man, those Eagles fans. So, what? Oh, God, those fans were just despicable, man. They were crazy. And they're still going at it. They're so upset. They're still upset at the Niners. Obviously, Ayuk had, kind of said some stuff about them. But, God, those Eagles fans are relentless, man. It's like they can't just take the win.
Said that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that Ayuk came out and said what he said on SF's show last week. So
yeah, it was
that
nice.
Just tells you what type of player that we have. I like those kind of players that will say what they have on their mind, and he didn't back away from it. So
nah, he kept it 100. He's unfiltered, and I appreciate that out of a player. Be honest and stick with your gun. So again, I'm sure these players are upset just like us because, again, they didn't really get a fair chance. So we'll see what happens next on Sunday with the Super Bowl. But speaking of Brandon Ayuk, he is in the running for getting his 5th-year option. They have until May 1st to pick up that option. You think they pick up that option? I think it's about a $14.1 million option if they were to pick up that 5th-year option. So I think they might pick that up and not extend them this year and then wait till next year to do the extension. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
They kind of did that with Bosa last year. They
Yeah.
looked at that and they waited till this year. So they might do that with Brandon Ayuk too. So give them some time to work numbers out for next year. So yeah, I think that's I would pick it up, but
100%. You can.
Yeah, that's all executive stuff. I'm not good with numbers, so
that's over your pay grade, right? Over your pay grade.
Hey, that's over my hair.
Yeah. That's why I said I let Parag deal with that nowadays. I used to worry about the cap numbers and stuff,
Yeah.
I just let Parag do it. I know he's got it. I know he's got it in the bag, and that's got to be the hardest job to figure out the money and the dollars and cents stuff. So I'm gonna let Parag handle that because that is it's crazy. Because you're right, there is the cap space, the money. Like if you look at it, you're like 16.6 million extra in cap space, and they still got to figure out a way to extend Kittle or Bosa. It does look challenging, and it does seem like how are they going to be able to get these guys back? How are they going to add people? But um, that's why they do the job, and they have a lot of money coming for it. So, speaking of free agents, though, coming into the season, as we're just talking about, that there are a lot of players that the Niners may potentially lose. Is there anybody specifically on the 49ers roster that's a free agent that you absolutely can't have this team lose? Like you're like, nope, if they lose, I'm gonna lose my mind. Like last year, I lost my mind that they lost DJ Jones, and it ended up costing them a lot. Like
Yeah.
I think they should have been able to keep DJ Jones. What about this year? Do you have anybody that you're like, I have to keep? I have to keep.
The one that keeps popping in my head, and I know that's gonna be hard because it looks like he's out the door already, is Jimmy Ward. So
Yeah. I
that's
think he's done.
that's
I
the
think he's
one
done.
guy. So yeah, that's a tough one, but that's in my mind, that's the one that I want to get re-signed. So
Yeah, I talked about that with Krug last night, and we both said the same thing. Jimmy Ward, if we can only sign one player back from this free agent group, Jimmy Ward, and then number two, maybe Emmanuel Mosley. Like, I don't want to lose Mosley because
yeah,
he's a very good corner. If he can stay healthy, he's a Pro Bowl type corner. So you got to bolster that secondary depth. Jimmy, he's a veteran leader, captain. He's so important to this team. Like you said about Fred Warner, how he's such a commander of this defense. That's Jimmy Ward too. You don't want to lose those type of guys, but I agree with you. I think his foot's out the door. He wants the money. I don't know if San Francisco is going to be able to afford him. I would love for him to come back, but I think he's going to Houston with DeMeco Ryans.
I think he's out there. He's going there too. So Emmanuel Mosley, that's the other guy. So coming back from an injury, how far is he coming back? Do you know?
So yeah, actually, he posts a lot of updates on his TikTok account, actually on his social media
Yeah,
account.
I don't have
And
that.
I got 14-year-old daughter. I got to get the TikTok, stay up with the times, And I actually have a TikTok page for my account, so got to keep the brand rolling. But anyways, Emmanuel Mosley has been posting updates. He's actually looking pretty good. He's God, where is it? I think off the top of my head, he's about 8, 9, 10. I think it's between 11 and 12 weeks post-op. So he's really progressing well. I saw him doing some of his stuff on his page, right? And he's doing some dynamic cutting and things like that. So he's definitely progressing. He's going to be ready, I think, by the time training camp rolls around. So yeah, he's looking good. As long as he can stay healthy, he'll be solid for us. But again, that's an issue he's had over his career. But the guy's a good cornerback, man. He's worked hard. I feel bad because last year he was doing such a good job, and he probably would have got paid a lot of money this offseason. And unfortunately for him, he's not going to get paid that much. And I think the Niners were ready to pay him a lot of money, but he was kind of like, I'm going to wait till the offseason and see where it goes because he was doing so good. And then boom, the injury came, and it was like, damn, that's such bad luck because now he's not going to get paid as much. So for us, it kind of worked out because we're probably going to get him on a cheaper contract than we would have been able to if he hadn't got injured. So in a way, it's good for us, but then at the same time, he is coming off a major injury, so it's a little risky.
Yeah, I think having him would have helped our sack numbers also.
Yeah,
I
getting
saw
those coverage
Wolf
sacks.
Yeah, saw Wolf's reply there. So yeah, having him back, I think will be really good. So if Jimmy Ward leaves, who would you see them putting in his position now?
Oh, well, see, that's the big question because I feel safety is definitely a big need this offseason. Because right now, if the season started, your two safeties are Hufanga and George Odom. George Odom's not going to be a starter quality guy. No disrespect to him. He's
Yeah.
a special team guy. So you need to find another safety. Tashawn Gibson, he says he might retire. He might come back, right? And then you got Jimmy Ward, who we talked about. He may be gone. The other guy is Tarvarius Moore. Maybe you bring him back, but I feel like he's not. I feel like he's also a special teamer kind of guy. Like I don't see him as a quality starter on this team. Maybe on another team they can use him and get the most out of him because he did have some injuries too. So I think you either look at the draft or free agents. I like Jesse Bates. He's a free agent safety on Cincinnati. It's a guy I'm looking at. If they can sign a guy this offseason that's, mid-tier type guy, I would go Jesse Bates, safety, and bring him in with Hufanga. I think that'd be a nice little duo. Otherwise, go into the draft. But I hope they can bring back Gibson or Ward. It'd be nice. But if you bring back Gibson, the problem with if you bring back Gibson, it's not maybe a 1 or 2 year deal. So then you still got to draft a guy.
Well, you draft a guy and have him play behind him, and just look at Lenore. He did really good this year. Towards the end of especially in the playoffs, he did really good. So, we can have guys coming in like that. So, do you know much about that Knight kid that's on the practice squad, Contras Knight?
Yeah, he looked pretty good. I've seen a little bit of him. I mean, again, the thing with him, practice squad, he's still developing. For him to come onto the roster and start, he'd have to really show up in training camp. That's the thing with those types of guys. For Kyle, they have to show out a lot in training camp. He looked good, and in stretches during the preseason and in throughout the offseason. But again, to be on a starter on a Super Bowl caliber roster, you got to really, really, really impress Kyle. And Kyle, you know how he is. He doesn't always play those younger guys. He doesn't give them a lot of opportunities. Like Lenore, a guy that you just mentioned, took him about 2 years to really get Kyle's trust. And he did. He stepped up at the end of the season. So I'm certain he's going to go into camp and have a fighting chance to make this roster. But I don't know if he's going to be able to stick and make a starting spot. So to me, again, safety to me would be a huge position for this team to go and get. But there's some other guys. Womack, he might be able to start at like slot corner. That's another position. So if Jimmy leaves, because he was able to play safety and the nickel, so now you have to figure out, are you going to move Lenore to the nickel? Are you going to keep him outside? If you get Emmanuel Mosley, would you move Sam Womack to the nickel? So we'll figure out. But again, we have Steve Wilks, who's a really good secondary guy, and I think he'll be able to figure out where these guys can fit in his defensive scheme. So it's going to be interesting with that secondary.
Yeah, it is. And especially if he can get Ambry Thomas to get out of his butt and do something.
Oh man, that's a good thing. I didn't even think of like Ambry Thomas, because again, he had a really unfortunate second year. He didn't do much. After a pretty promising first year, it started slow. He had the big interception, and I was kind of expecting him to have a better second year, and he was non-existent. So maybe if anybody could get anything out of him, it could be Steve Wilks, because he's the guy that turned Josh Norman into Pro Bowl Josh Norman back in 2016, 2017. Like he kind of made Josh Norman a Pro Bowler back when he was with the Rams or with Carolina several years back. So if he could turn Josh Norman into a dog, maybe he could turn Ambry Thomas into a dog. We'll see. That'd be nice.
Yeah, if he can turn him into what Lenore was this year, that'd be great, especially for the secondary. So, and then he can improve. Like Womack, he showed some good stuff too when he got on the field. So, if he can improve all of those guys, then if we lose Jimmy Ward, he can bring somebody, or maybe he brings somebody with him that he knows is just like, hey, come on over. We're needing somebody to fill this position. So
and again, that's what I'm hoping for, him to bring guys that he's coached or has familiarity with. Again, Greedy Williams, man, that's the guy I want. Bring Greedy over.
Bring him over. I love that name. That name is just like, that's like a guy that's greedy to get all the food that's thrown his way, right?
He's hungry.
Gonna miss those.
Yeah, he wants that. He's hungry, and
he's gonna get that pig skin.
He had some injuries early in his career, but when I was doing draft crushes, when he was coming out of the combine the year he was coming, man, that was one of the. I was like, oh god, if the 49ers could get Greedy. So several years later, if we could still get Greedy, I'd still be hyped up, just as I would be a couple of years with the 2017, 2018. I'd still be happy. Just like CMC, the 49ers were able to get him this year. They weren't able to get him the year he came out, but a couple years down the line, I'll still take it. So, again, having a guy like Steve Wilks could help them get some of those guys. So I would be happy to see that.
Maybe they were happy to hire Wilkes because CMC came through from Carolina. So
maybe they had a little intel from CMC. And I'm sure when they interview the players down the line in this later in the off season, I'm sure CMC will say something nice that we'll kind of have to, we'll dig up, and I'm sure some of the reporters will say something. I know they'll ask him about Wilkes later down the line, and I'm anticipating. I can't wait to hear what Wilkes has to say when he has his introductory press conference, whenever that is. That'll be nice to hear from him. So, because he seems like a really genuine, really good guy. I've seen some video clips of him, talking in the locker room and hyping these guys. He just seems like a really, really good leader. So I'm excited about this guy. I think it's going to be a very, very strong hire for this team.
Yeah, it will be. Hey, I was going to ask you about, so your profession, you're a PT, right?
Yeah. I'm a doctor of physical therapy.
And so looking at the kind of injury have you ever dealt with somebody that had the same injury that Brock Purdy had?
Yeah, I've dealt with people that have had like torn ligaments in their elbow, the UCL. I've worked, with people in sports medicine where they've had, throwing it like pitchers where they had the same injury. They had to get Tommy John surgery. It's a tough situation. It's a tough injury, but athletes, they heal better and faster than your typical person because they are stronger. They have a better healing capacity. Normally, they're younger. So it depends. I usually work with the geriatric population, but I have worked in the sports med population. It's so different when you see like an older person, non-athletic person compared to an athlete. The rate of healing is so different. It's crazy. But I have worked with individuals with that injury. Yeah. And speaking of Brock, we're still waiting. His ultimate decision. Yesterday Matt Miyoko talked about they're still debating. Yesterday he was supposed to have like a panel, and they were gonna finalize his decision. So hopefully in the next day or two we figure out what they're gonna do. If Brock, hopefully, what they're saying is he should be able to get a repair, and it'll take about 6 months of full recovery. So that would be the best case scenario. Now, that would take us to August, maybe September, depending if he starts the surgery at the end of February. So that's kind of where he'd come in. So he wouldn't really be there for training camp. But I feel Brock, what he did this year, he could come in and run the offense. Now, the question is, okay, if Brock's not even ready till August, September, Trey's going to be the guy, obviously. But they're going to need a veteran quarterback. Who would you want this team to go and get, for this team to be a backup, a third stringer? Because you're going to need those guys for training camp, at least in preseason. Brock's not going to be ready no matter what surgery he gets. Even if it's the 6-month surgery, he won't be ready till the start of the season. So what do you make of the quarterback situation? You heard Joe Montana. He wants Jimmy Garoppolo. What do you got to say about it, my man?
Yeah, Garoppolo, he can go to another team. That's that ship has sailed a couple years ago. I don't know. If it's true what was reported earlier today that he was ready to go, who knows if he was ready to go for that championship game. My question would be, is he doesn't have a heart of a champion, because if he was ready to go in that NFC championship game and said, okay, I'm doing it for my future, I don't want to get hurt in this game, but you play this game to be in the Super Bowl. So why wouldn't you take the chance to play in a game and win a championship? That'll only make his purse get a lot bigger going out there, making that bag bigger for him, right? Because he would have that under his belt. I won a Super Bowl. So if the reports is true that he was ready to go, then that's the question that I would pose to him is, why didn't you suit up? Because you had the opportunity to, who knows what would have happened in that game, but he could have came in the game and been the savior like he did when Trey Lance went down, right?
Been the hero.
Yeah, be that hero, be that guy, but he decided not to. So those are like what if questions also of, did he really say that? Did that really happen? Or is it because like a week before that game, he was rolling around in a boot? So I don't know how the injury was at that time, but that would be the question to ask. If you were ready to go, why didn't you go out there and been that guy to try to get to the Super Bowl? And if you did get to the Super Bowl and the outcome was that you won the Super Bowl, that would be in your pedigree. You can go out and tell everybody in the league, hey, I won a Super Bowl.
100%. It would have strengthened his resume 100%. But again, those reports of him saying he was ready, but he didn't play. But you don't know how true those are. And again, he wasn't a boot before. I still think he may not have been cleared yet. There, and you never know what him and Shanahan are thinking, and you don't know what Jimmy's long-term plans are. But to sit here and just for the sake of conversation, if he was ready and he did play, yeah, and they would have won the game, it would have strengthened his resume. But
Was he cleared by a doctor?
No, there was no
Okay.
official word that he was ever cleared. So I take that kind of stuff with a grain of salt because I didn't see anything official. I didn't hear anything behind the scenes. I don't think he was cleared because in my opinion, if he was cleared, I think he would have been out there. I think he would have suited up. I think that he's that type of guy that would have suited
And I
up.
agree with you there.
That's just my opinion, because you're right. If he was cleared and he did have the opportunity, because he knows anything can happen in this league, any injury can happen, just like it's happened many times. I feel he would have suited up and say, hey, I might get that opportunity and I can be the hero. So I don't think he was ever, I don't think that, that rumor that was floating out there holds any weight. Again, it's rumors, it's the off season. People are going to say things and you don't know what's true and what's not. This is the crazy type of the season where it's smoke season, we call it. You never know. People are going to throw things at the wall and you can be like, is this true? I don't know. He said it. He's on the internet. It might be true. Might not be. So it's interesting. But yeah, man, at the end of the day, we still have a quarterback issue where another year, another off season, we're sitting here and I couldn't tell you who's going to start quarterback one at the start of the season. It's probably going to be Trey if he's healthy and everything pans out. But who knows? It may not be. So in terms of veteran, they said they're not looking for a big time top tier guy. They're looking for a middle tier guy just to be a backup to get through camp. So then that tells me there's guys like Andy Dalton, there's guys like Gardner Minshew, Trubisky, like maybe a guy like that. But wow. I don't know. Would you want to waste your time with those guys? My man Hendrick says keep an eye out on Malik Cunningham from Louisville. We talked about him yesterday with Kruger. Malik Cunningham could be a sneaky little late round pick. You never know. And you could develop him. If Brock's not ready, if Trey's not ready and he gets hurt again, then you got this young kid that you could develop. I like the route of going for a young quarterback because if you get an Andy Dalton, you know what Andy Dalton is. He's not going to become any better than what he is. He's Andy Dalton. He's not going to become better. But if you have a guy like Malik Cunningham, he might actually get better and become a pretty good player. So I would go with the young guy. I agree with Hendricks.
Okay. So I would go with the young guy too. And the guy that I go with is BYU's quarterback, Jaron Hall. So that's who I would go with.
Okay. Okay.
He's a really good quarterback, but I like Malik also. That would be a good one too. So I like the younger way because Kyle Shanahan shows that he can work with some younger guys, and having a veteran come in there. I almost just started blasting off on yesterday when you were on with Larry. The QBs are the divas of this freaking league, man. They're the freaking divas.
You think QBs are more diva than a wide receiver?
They are more diva, dude.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Explain. Tell me why. That's a good take. I like that take. Why so?
Well, all right. So how long has Joe Montana been out of the league?
At least 30 years, maybe?
30-something years?
Yeah.
He's still holding a grudge against Steve Young.
He'll never let that one go.
He's not going to let that one go, right?
He will never let that one go. He will never let it go.
Dude, they want control of everything. They want control of everything. So, to me, QBs are more diva. Because if you're a freaking receiver and you want to mess with the quarterback, you know who's leaving?
The quarterback.
No, the wide receiver is going.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Well, that happened a few years ago. So
maybe you're right. Maybe quarterbacks are a bigger deal because
maybe they're the same. Maybe they're same. We just see the wide receivers more animated when they're out there on the field
because they're so flashy. They got that flashy vibe. But maybe you're right because I was talking to my boy Moose. So the players are in Vegas. When they go there, my friend Moose, he's the guy that takes care of the Niner players. He's the one that sets them up at their hotels and gets them everything. You probably seen them in the pictures and stuff. But so this weekend, Joe Burrow was there with the players. And because he's friends with Bosa, so he was telling me all the stories. And he goes, Roger, let me tell you, when Burrow came in, it was like a different aura. He goes, it was this crazy swag. He goes, I've never seen this type of just charisma. He goes, maybe it's because it's Burrow, but he goes, quarterback, like swag is bigger than anything. He's like, Kittle, Bosa, these guys, I've been with them, Debo. but he goes, nobody had the swag of Joe Burrow. He goes, and he's hung out with Jimmy too. He goes, that swag that Jimmy had too just took over a room. So maybe you're right that maybe the quarterback is a bigger diva than a wide receiver. That's a good call. That's a good point. Maybe I like that. We'll have to. I'll have to ask him that question. I'll say, who do you think's a bigger diva, wide receiver or quarterback? I'll see what he says. I like it.
Yeah, we'll have to ask some people.
So,
they're never gonna agree. So
no. I mean, they're both big time parts of. They're both big time players that love they love, to be the number one guy. Like your wide receiver one wants to be the guy. Like Keyshawn Johnson back there, give me the ball, give me the damn ball. You know what I mean? So, but quarterbacks want to be the guy of the team. So it's interesting. So let me see some of these comments in the chat. We'll get to the comments. Shardal SG Sports Talk, what's up, my man? How we doing? Let me take Burnt Reynolds says Jimmy Garoppolo is the best quarterback free agent on the market. Do you agree with that? Free agent quarterback? He might be right because Derek Carr, he's not a free agent. Aaron Rodgers is not a free agent. Lamar Jackson's not a free agent. Jimmy Garoppolo might actually be the best free agent quarterback on the market.
He might be, and you can have him for all that's worth. So.
Where do you think he goes? Where do you think Jimmy Garoppolo goes?
He might go to. I think he's gonna go to New York, to the Jets.
New York? You think he's going to the Jets? Yeah. Okay.
He's gonna find himself there, or who knows, Tennessee. Who knows? He's gonna be somewhere.
I think he goes to Tampa Bay. I think he's gonna go to Tampa Bay. That's where I go.
Yeah, they need a quarterback.
There's a lot of teams. This year's offseason is crazy because I feel like there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks teams that need a quarterback. Carolina, the Saints, Tampa Bay, Houston, the Jets, the Raiders. We don't know what Baltimore's going to do. Miami might need to take a quarterback because they don't know if Tua can stay healthy through a season. What do I see? The Colts. Who else? Who else is 49ers? They need a third quarterback.
Miami would be a good one because Mike McDaniel is there. Mm-hmm. And Tua, when I seen that first hit when he got hurt like that, and then now all these problems, he should be talking with his family and not playing for a while because that could be a scary outcome if he gets hurt again, and we don't want to see players get hurt like that on the field. So that's one of the I would just talk, he needs to have a come to Jesus type meeting with his family, what's going to be good for him in his future, because I don't want to see I'm poly, so I don't want to see another poly guy go down and be hurt like that. So that's one of Tua's. Miami may be a good fit for Jimmy.
It might be. It might actually be because he knows Mike. He kind of would fit into the system. He knows some of the players there. Might be a good fit for him. And you're right, Tua. He's got a lot of hits to the head, and it's like when Steve Young. He had a lot of concussions. He had to retire for it, and I felt bad for Tua because he took some nasty hits, and you don't know if he's going to be able to last another season. Another hit to the head, and the more you get, the more susceptible you are. So they definitely got to consider a quarterback. Jimmy would definitely be a good fit there on that team. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting because I don't think the Niners are going to bring him back. I know Joe Montana said again he thinks the Niners should roll with Jimmy, but he's not on the roster anymore. He's a free agent. Last year was complicated because he was on the roster. He wasn't, he was still contracted. They were trying to find a way to get rid of him, but they couldn't because the surgery. And luckily for them, they were able to keep him and figure out a way. And unfortunately for the 49ers, Trey goes down. So they did have that insurance policy, but I don't think that's going to happen this year. I just don't see it happening. If it happens, the odds of that are crazy. Like I better start taking out bets on the 49ers on the most craziest things if it happens, but I just don't see it happening,
but Jimmy, he did that to himself last year. Yeah. And then there's 31 teams, like even Kyle said it himself. There was 31 other teams out there that could have signed him. And they didn't. So that was their bad.
Yeah.
So is that going into this offseason, he might get what he wants because other teams saw what he did before he got hurt again. So you know, uh, Jimmy, good for you. You made a lot of money already. You're gonna make some more money, but I think the Niners fans, they want to see a new chapter. They want to see a different one, and I think they need to give Trey Lance a chance to at
Yeah.
least get out there and show what he can do. Prove it, like a prove it year. If Brock Purdy's not ready to go, Trey Lance should be the one to go. So
I
he
mean,
needs to
yeah,
get out there.
they gave up a lot for him last year. Unfortunately, he got hurt. So, he definitely needs to have that opportunity to prove himself. But again, the Super Bowl window definitely is slow, but you got to hope that Trey can come into camp and really be motivated, which I think he will be, and get it all together. Mentally, I don't know where he's going to be. Well, Brock too, because they both had big injuries. But you're right. I believe Trey definitely deserves a shot. But it's going to be interesting because this team, the window doesn't stay open forever, but I do think Trey definitely deserves a shot. It's just a crazy situation because you have all these quarterbacks that could win with this team that do have talent, but then they get hurt, and it's like, what do you do? You're basically a quarterback away from winning the Super Bowl almost every year. So it is frustrating as a fan. So hopefully Trey could come in and be that guy and take him away, but then you hopefully have Brock Purdy in your back pocket where if Trey doesn't pan out or if something, goes astray at the beginning of the season, maybe Brock can come in like he did this year
Yeah.
and take the reins and do what he has to do. Now, a question that I think I asked this to Larry last night. I'll ask you. So let's play hypothetical. Let's say that Trey Lance beats out Brock Purdy, right? Brock Purdy would be a backup. I think he'd be a good backup. But do you think if Brock Purdy, let's say that Brock's able to go by the start of the season and they name Brock Purdy the starter, do you think Trey would be okay being a backup, or do you think he would force a trade out?
That's a tough situation. But if I were in Trey Lance's shoes and I was offered to be a backup and I knew that I can get to a Super Bowl, I would get to the Super Bowl first with the team, be a backup, learn all I can. Because you're just like Brock said earlier in the year, he played against the number one defense in the league for what 13 weeks plus the preseason games. So Trey Lance, he will get that opportunity. I mean, this year he just got hurt. That's just the suck uh, factor that happened, that he got hurt. And so it's not, I mean, we can't control what happens to us anywhere. I mean, we can walk down a flight of steps and just slip and we get hurt, right? We didn't know that that's going to happen. Trey didn't know that was going to happen. So I would be, if I was in Trey's shoes and that's Brock beat me out, what can I do to improve so that way I can still have a chance when it's my turn? Because going through this through this Kyle Shanahan offense and everything, we probably need more than three quarterbacks. We probably need another guy. And
Right.
yesterday, I suggested that we go get Taysom Hill, come bring him in as a tight end,
Okay.
not sign him as a quarterback, but you got an emergency guy,
Oh, that's
or
a good
somebody
emergency. That's a good plan.
that can throw.
That's not bad. So if they do go down and go this road again, the odds of all this happening to me was just crazy. But you just never know. You can't predict it. But
If
if
it
they did
happens
get injured,
next year, I'm gonna be like, I'm just gonna move back to the island and just kick it over there and say, so I don't know what happened, but
it's crazy, man. And it would be crazy. But I like that. You know what? That's actually a good take. Maybe get Taysom Hill. You can use him as like a utility player. And hey, if you need a quarterback, you don't have to worry about having that inactive third quarter because there's that rule where you can't have another third quarterback active on the roster. So that would actually be the loophole to that. So I don't think that's a bad idea. He just has a big contract because he is a versatile guy. So I don't know if they'd be able to afford him. I like this comment from this guy. He says, this guy actually says, I like his little profile. He's got the guy kicking another guy. He says, Brock's injury and opponents having full tape. Who knows if Purdy will be the same? So that is true because there is going to be a lot more tape on him. He played a short amount of time. The injury may change his throwing. He may not have a strong arm anymore or a strong enough arm. And it might take him some time to build that velocity in his arm, because it is a big injury, throwing shoulder. It might take him a few weeks to get there. And he didn't have the strongest arm to begin with. He was a good quarterback in this system. It could have an effect on him long term. It is something that the Niners would have to consider. But again, that's what the coaches are going to look and evaluate. You got Greasy figuring it out with him, but you would hopefully trust that the medical system and the medical team and his coaches would put him in good position. But it is a valid question to say, hey, what if Brock Purdy isn't the same guy that, took us that far? And it was a short, time, and teams are going to figure him out because look, Jimmy Garoppolo, he came in with the 49ers in 2017, 5-game stretch. And it was like, holy crap, we found the guy. Next season, they gave him, that big contract, big old bag, tears the ACL. He comes back. He wasn't necessarily the same because he wasn't as mobile as he was. And then he got hurt. So you never know, man, how an injury is going to really affect a player. Or you could be like Tom Brady, you tear your ACL, and that's the only thing that ever happened to you. So, again, Trey definitely deserves a chance, like you said. But who knows? The same logic can be placed on Trey. He may not be the same quarterback that they thought he was coming into when they drafted him. So we'll see.
Yeah, because a lot of times with injuries, the doctors may clear you and they say you're 100% and you can play, but dang well you're not 100%. Just point in case, Kinlaw, he wasn't 100%, and so he got rushed back into play. But he's one of those guys that you can look at with injuries, being rushed back in there. You're not really 100%. I don't think you're really 100% until, for me, Brock Purdy's timeline. If it was me, I'm not a doctor or anything, but probably late October, November is his timeline to come back in, because you'll have that time to be able to figure out if your arm strength is worth it to go back out there on the field. Because he could come out there really early and somebody can swipe at that arm again, and in his mind, it's a psychological thing.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to get injured again. And then you do different things, and sometimes it doesn't work out. But you could be that miracle guy and come back in and freaking smoke it up next year, and we're in the Super Bowl. So
yeah, you never know. Again, every injury is different. Everybody's different. Their healing capacity. And to me, you hit it right on the head, is the mental capacity, the mental recovery of an injury. That to me is the biggest factor of any injury, is how are these guys going to, react to when somebody's running down their neck again with the pass rush, Hassan Reddick coming down, the pipe trying to hit you again, and you have like flashbacks of last time, So it is a stressful situation for these young guys, and it's something they got to deal with. But, I like your take on maybe giving them a little bit longer time to prepare. Don't just throw him into the fire again, because you have to make sure he's 100%. You don't want to mess him up physically and mentally. So, and then again, the same thing goes with Trey. This is a very delicate injury. This is a tough one. They have to play this right, and he has to be 100% ready to roll. But right now it's frustrating because there really is no quarterback on this roster that at this moment, like if the season started today, there's no healthy quarterback. We don't have one other than Jimmy, but he's not on the roster. So
yeah, I'll go over there and throw.
You want to go? Can you throw the ball?
Oh, I can throw. I was a pretty good athlete in my time, but I still, like in my age, I still play with the college boys out here.
There we go. We'll sign you up. I'm gonna call Kyle. Yo, Kyle, I got a quarterback for you. Don't worry.
I can throw those 5-10 yards quick. 5-10 yards quick. Long bombs. Yeah.
Let's get it, man. Hey, if you can throw the long bomb, you're hired. You got the job, man. Ayuk needs a guy that can throw him the ball.
We'll leave that for Wolf. Wolf said he can bomb it like 60, 70 yards. So we'll leave that up to Wolf.
Maybe you can have the new quarterback controversy. You and Wolf. Let's get it, man.
Oh, I know I can punt pretty far still, but throwing, I don't know. I don't know how far I can get that thing anymore.
Okay. So. Well, maybe stand by the phone. You might need to be on standby by the phone because Kyle might be.
I can definitely still rack somebody up pretty good.
Okay.
So,
well,
I'm 245. I'm 245 pounds, so I can still smack somebody.
Well, with all the free agents that we're going to lose this season, I'm telling you, stay by the phone. You might get called up.
No, they're going to look at my age and they're going to like, nah, man. We can't have you on here.
No, age ain't nothing but a number, man. Don't worry about the age. Don't worry about the age. I guess a couple more questions I'll ask you. So, obviously, we talked about the defense. We talked about the quarterback. we gotta address the elephant in the room, the offensive line, because in order to stay up as a quarterback, to stay healthy, your O line has to protect you. The 49ers have Jake Brendel, they have Dan Brunskill, and the infamous Mike McGlinchey are all free agents right now this offseason. So what do we do? What do we do for the O line? How do we fix the O line? What do you think? Do we keep McGlinchey? Do we keep Brunskill? Do we keep Jake? Do we keep them all? Do we let them all go? What do we do?
Okay, hold on. Let me write this real quick.
No worries.
Real quick. Let's see if you can read that. Can you guys all see that? Or is it too?
It's kind of blurry. Kind of blurry. They should. I can't see it all.
All right. They should have drafted freaking Sewell. Traded down just one spot. Maybe they could have still got Trey Lance and drafted Sewell. And that right tackle position would not be a factor right now. That's what they should have done. McGlinchey, when I see McGlinchey play, man, I just think why is he even there? That's he's a good run blocker, but my gosh, if you get, a guy my weight, hip toss that sucker right out of the way in the Cowboys game. So when Parsons did that, he just like tossed him like nothing. I was like, oh, this is our right tackle to get tossed like that. I criticize the way he plays. He plays upright. His legs are too stiff, right? He's not getting down like you should. And then he's embracing the contact or kind of running away from it. So yeah, he's got to go.
I wish they would have got one of these premium tackles over the last year's Wirfs, Slater, Penei Sewell. There was a lot of tackles they could have got. Hindsight's 2020. I think the reason they kept McGlinchey, obviously he was a first-round pick, so they invested a lot in him. They really wanted to make sure he succeeded. And I think the other reason is he is a good run blocker, and Kyle's system is so run-heavy, so I feel like they realize, yeah, he does benefit us in the run blocking. But you're right, pass protection's been kind of a roller coaster since he's been with the team. Honestly, I think he will get paid a decent amount on the market because right tackle's not a really strong position out in the free agent market. Somebody will give him a bag. He'll get somebody to sign him. But to me, and we talked about this last night, and somebody in the comments said this, they should move Spencer Burford to right tackle. Honestly, he played tackle in college, and he says he can play both. And I think last year when they drafted him, they threw him in the guard spot because they didn't have him. They had all the free agents. It was the same situation, so it was like, crap, we got to put him at guard. I think now with the year under his belt, I think he could slide over to right tackle and be successful. And then you have Brunskill, you have Nick Zakelj, who you drafted, you have Jason Poe, you have these guys that maybe you can develop them as a guard, and then you can maybe sign Brendel back. He could be a good center while Nick Zakelj and Poe are developing. And again, Brunskill too. So I think the move, to me, the most logical move is moving Spencer Burford to right tackle. And he's cheaper. He's still on his rookie contract, so you don't even have to waste money on McGlinchey. You've got Burford, who I think would be a very solid right tackle. I think so. That, to me, would be the most logical move.
Who would you look at drafting? I have a guy in mind to draft, but who would you look to draft?
Go ahead. Let me know who you got. Go ahead. Let me know.
Okay, so Freeland from BYU. He played there, 4-year starter. He'll probably be in the second round, maybe in the later first.
Okay.
But a guy like him, he's really good, pass protection and run. That's who I got. But man, if they would have just gotten Penei Sewell, we wouldn't be talking about this because he runs a 4.8, low 4.8.
He's a beast, man. That guy's a beast.
Freaking run.
No,
and he trains over here too. So
okay.
Yeah, he trains.
If you run into him, tell him to slide to the bay.
well, see, that's the other thing. Out of the 4 brothers, his other brother is going to come into the draft this year, Noah Sewell.
Yeah.
And that's the one that I wouldn't pass up on if I were the Niners. He'll be a really good one. They can put him in multiple positions. He can play running back, fullback. He can play linebacker. I mean, he was like Patrick Willis back when Patrick Willis used to be a running back and stuff.
Oh wow,
Except Noah is freaking huge. He's big.
he's a
He's
big dude, huh?
265 pounds, 270.
Oh,
So
that's a
he's a
monster.
big boy.
He's a monster. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm down with it. I think that would be good. I mean, it'd be a nice pick to get something like that. I think what the Niners may have to do if they want a premium lineman like that, they might have to trade up because they got all third round picks and below. So they might have to do a package. I like Blake Freeland. Pockets has mentioned him. Blake Freeland looks pretty good. He's not bad. So I mean, there's a lot of prospects. This year's draft is very heavy in offensive linemen. So I think that if they do go that route, they'll be successful.
Yeah. Hopefully they can pick a really good one.
Yeah, man, offensive line is a big issue, as we saw, because if you don't have a line, you can get crushed. Your quarterback goes down.
It's tough, especially if you miss in the draft because it sets you back too. So it's really tough. So and if you're a coach, you just got to motivate these players because there's not a lot of them that make it to the league, and you're just telling them, hey, you gotta step up your game if you want to be here for a long term contract or anything. So um, that's the mentality players should have going into the league. It's like I gotta show up and show them that I belong here. Brock Purdy did that last pick in the
Mm-hmm.
NFL draft, and he showed that I'm here. I'm going to do what I need to do to be around in the league, and he showcased what he could do. So players just need to come into the league with that mentality. Like I'm going to show up and I'm going to show you that I belong here. So
Yeah, no, and I think that's why they like having those late picks, those undrafted guys, because they know they're going to work harder than some of these other guys. Because I think someone said in the comments they might make it to the league, but they don't stick in the league. Sometimes some guys are just happy with being there. Like there's a guy on the Niners that we used to have, Dante Pettis. I think he was just happy being in the fucking league. Excuse my language. Like he was just
yeah.
happy being in the league. That's it. He didn't care.
Well, I knew he was a fraud when he had painted fingernails.
There's no wide receiver that I know that has paid a bigger.
Who
No
paints your
disrespect to
freaking
people that.
fingernail and go into the league? Come on, bro.
That's too much, man. Yeah, he was a weird dude. But I remember there was an interview. Tracy Sandler, I think. She asked him, like, what are your goals this year? And it was like second year, third year. You know, he had kind of been, he'd been underachieving. And he goes, oh, I'm just happy to be in the league. And I don't want to be the best in the league. I just don't want to be the best in my position. Like, and I was like, what kind of answer? You don't want to be the best at your position? You're just happy to be in the league. After that, I knew. I was like, this guy doesn't care about being the best. He just is happy to be there.
Why would he care? I mean, his dad had a lot of money in the first place.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when we draft players and stuff and they come into the 49ers, we have high hopes for all of them.
Oh, man.
But yeah, when he showed off his painted fingernails, that was it. I was like, hell no.
So note to myself, don't paint my nails. If you see me on a live stream, my fingernails are painted, just log off. Just get out of here. Yeah.
Just say you were helping your daughter with some
craft
or something.
That's funny, dude. Oh my God. Well, I don't know. That's pretty much all I got. You got any questions for me or anything else or anything else you want to talk about? I think that the biggest topic obvious today was Steve Wilks, man, and I'm hyped up. I want to see what he can do. But man, I'm excited for this team. It's just going to be a long off season. You know how it is. But yeah, and anything you got to say or tell the people where to find you. I'm happy you came on the show today. It was a good time, man. What do you think?
So yeah, it's great being here, Raj. I was trying to get on with you a couple of times because I'm pretty new to this space, you know.
For sure.
It's just right that Arizona Cardinal game. Right after that, I was like, I'm gonna start posting up here, telling people what's on my mind, how I look at this team and sports, especially because I just love watching sports. And I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I mean, I was posting up other stuff on there on YouTube, but it was mainly for me getting fit and everything. And then came around fall. It's like, I gotta just start eating. So I just started eating. But you can find me at Big Sports. That's my channel name on YouTube. It's just right up here. It's at Big Mac Sports. So make sure you put that at Big Mac Sports because you won't find me otherwise.
Okay.
You'll go to a Big Mac channel or something like that, showcasing McDonald's.
Yeah, we'd be getting hungry.
Yeah. And then at Big Mac Sports also on Twitter. And yeah, you can find me on there. And I do just a 30-minute stuff in the mornings, just whatever I heard overnight. And by 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, it's old news already. So so don't quote me for anything that you hear in the morning, but that's how you'll find me.
Very good.
So yeah, it's a pleasure being on here with you, Raj. We just gotta let's do it more often.
Yeah, 100%, man. You just DM me. It's always fun to having anybody on the show. It's always good to hear everybody else's takes. I like, bringing people on. I think the Niner fans always appreciate us having, some other people on, get some different perspectives. They hear me enough. They're probably tired of me. You know how it goes. So good to bring people in. But I appreciate you for hopping in, man. Hopefully we have a good rest of the off season. It's only been a week of the off season. It's only been you have to put this into perspective that it's literally only been a week of the off season. It's only going to get crazier. It hasn't even hit the tip of the iceberg.
This was the first step. Getting that defensive coordinator in here. That's the first step. Then the next one will be seeing what they can do with the cap and bringing everybody back. So this off. Oh, I got one thing. If you guys want to help me, I want to do that where they tie my 40 in a suit and everything. But if I can get my subscriptions up more and be able to go over there and Rich Eisen and do that.
Do it. You should just start recording yourself doing it, and eventually maybe it'll get just do it. Just start posting your 40 time. I want to see you do your 40, man. Let's do it.
It's slow right now because I've been going through some injuries, but
it's all good, man. That's how you grind it up. And then we'll see the progression. We'll see you run like a 10-4-40, and then you'll be running a 4-3-40, right? We'll see it.
Man, that's a child. That's when I was in my
youth. What's your fastest 40 time ever?
4-4.
440?
4-4.
Bro, you were an athlete, man. Let's go.
Yeah, I did all kind of stuff, especially on the basketball court.
Okay. Chef Curry over here, my boy. Chef Curry, Big Mac Chef. That's good.
Yeah.
I like it.
So, that was back in the days. Can't do that stuff no more.
The joints get a little stiff nowadays, huh?
Well, you work with those things, and they get, especially when you're 245 pounds. My heaviest was 285. My playing weight was 235. So that's where it's at. So especially when I used to play rugby.
Oh, you played rugby?
Oh yeah, I played rugby was my game. That was way before football. So rugby was my game. That those going into rucks and stuff like that. Oh man, you get out of there, your spine is all like that.
I can imagine. You're like mangled.
You're bruised up in that game, man. You're bruised up in that. So.
I love it. I got one more question. There's people in the comments. They were saying, Kinlaw, he's worth. What do you think about Kinlaw? Javon Kinlaw. What do you think? What should they do with him this offseason? That's a guy that he's in limbo. They might be able to get rid of Kinlaw, or do you think they give him one more last chance? What do you think?
I would tell him go get healthy, get ready, and prove it to us over the summer. Okay. If not, then we cut you because there's a Siaki Ika for Baylor that I would like them to draft.
Okay.
Because that's a big boy and he can move too. So, there's a lot of guys that I like in the draft, but I pinpointed to a couple of guys that I see that can fit this system and come in and help right away and improve this defense. They don't need a lot of improving, but right there in that position, that needs to get improved. So
no, I 100% agree. Interior D-line, I think it took a step back this year. There were some injuries, but losing DJ Jones was huge to me, and I think they were banking on Kinlaw being able to step in. He just couldn't replicate what DJ Jones could do, and I think you're right. It's get healthy, come into training camp, show us you got it. If not, we got to move on, man.
Yeah, you gotta let them go. It's an unfortunate part of the business, but the NFL is a business, so they're It's doggy dog right there,
It
man.
is, man. It's dog
They're
eat
gonna say,
dog,
hey,
man.
if you can't meet it and you can't beat what's in front of you, then we got to let you go. So that's how they are. That's how the NFL works. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
tough. It's a tough business, and that's what I know. A lot of fans don't like that part, the business of the game, but it's a business, a multi-billion-dollar business. So,
yeah. You got a whole bunch of
huh?
chats up in this group.
We get a lot. We always got the chat. The chat, yo, shout out to the chat. Always doing the work. Always putting in the time. They're very active. I love them. Appreciative of everybody that supports the channel. Appreciate my man Big Mac Sports tonight. Good stuff. I'll be live on Instagram later, so I'm gonna get something to eat. We'll be live a little later. Appreciate you for hopping on. We'll make this happen again. And stay, hit that like button, everybody. Appreciate y'all. Have a good
All
rest
right,
of your day.
faithful.
Love y'all.